Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining this stream. Of course, many thanks to members of our community who will join later on or will watch video after stream ends. Today is 15th of June. Now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon Moscow time, and this is traditional Sunday community chat. Although last 2 days we had our Q&A sessions after news segment. But anyways, as always, dear friends, I will share a news segment first, and afterwards, I will be engaged actively with the chat, and I will try to be as informative as I can while answering or commenting on your questions and comments. Of course, priority will be given to a super chat on Rumble, or if I will receive questions during the stream through support platforms for this project, through PayPal or Boosted, because any independent, after all, we'll understand, any independent channel only exists as long as it has community support. So that being said, dear friends, let's start news segment. And today I will start with the Ukrainian crisis, by the way. I understand that interest worldwide is shifted from Ukrainian crisis towards Israeli-Iran confrontation, but I will nevertheless, I'm in Russia, and me personally, Russian community, Russian media is, of course, first of all, focused on issues that are immensely important for Russia. And their special military operation is definitely one of those topics. And so, first of all, let me give you information that today Russian side transferred bodies of killed Ukrainian personnel to Kiev regime. 1,200 bodies of killed Ukrainian military personnel was transferred today. Process is still underway, according to latest reports, and overall number of transferred bodies of killed Ukrainian military personnel to Kiev regime is 4,000 now. I guess tomorrow and day after, next stages of these transfers will take place, and overall, Kiev regime will receive, as Russian side promised, based on Istanbul agreements, Kiev regime will receive 6,000 bodies of killed Ukrainian military personnel, soldiers and officers. So this humanitarian process that Russia initiated is continuous. I just remind you, dear friends, that yesterday, according to reports, day after yesterday and also today, Russian side didn't receive bodies of killed Russian military personnel. The Kiev regime has no bodies to transfer, or just don't care. Difficult to say, but Russian side is acting based on agreements reached in Istanbul during the second round of direct talks recently. Also, RIA Novosti is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated the Ulyanovka settlement in the DPR. Let me show you on the map, dear friends, this settlement. So it's a northern eastern flank of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration. This is Ulyanovka settlement, and Russian troops are getting closer and closer to reach operational encirclement of Pokrovsk-Mirnograd agglomeration. Progress of the Russian armed forces is very significant all along the front line, not just in DPR, but also in the Sumy region, where buffer zone is being created. Also, Russian troops are very active in Seversk direction, in Kupiansk direction, and lately we also have seen activization of Russian military operations in Zaporozhye sector too. And reports are that in a relatively short time, Russian troops probably will begin operations to liberate Gulyai-Polye and Orekhov settlements. Let's see how the situation develop in this regard. Also, dear friends, Russian armed forces continue to take actions against military and logistical infrastructure of the Kiev regime, energy infrastructure of the Kiev regime, Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, and According to reports, yesterday Russian militaries conducted yet another long-range precise strikes in number of directions. And this morning I shared on my Telegram several photos and video of aftermath of these strikes. For example, in Kremenchuk, by the way, in Kremenchuk area, where according to reports, oil refinery plant was targeted and basically destroyed. And well, that's been said. Let's talk about Iran. Israeli conflict or Israeli-Iran conflict. Yesterday, Russian president and president of US had a phone conversation, and their main topics of discussion was this crisis in the Middle East and Ukraine. Let me give you some details about this conversation. RT published the article on that. So Russian President Vladimir Putin and his US counterpart Donald Trump spoke over the phone on Saturday, discussing their attacks between Iran and Israel and the Ukrainian conflict. According to Kremlin, the call lasted approximately 1 hour. The Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov called the conversation meaningful, frank, and most importantly, very useful. Putin condemned Israeli strikes on Friday, particularly noting that they occurred just before nuclear negotiations between Iran and the US should take place on June 15, which is today, by the way. Despite such a complicated situation, Russian and American presidents did not rule out a return to the negotiating track on the Iranian nuclear program, Putin's aide added. This is important, I think, because according to a number of sources, it's not just Russia, but also a few more countries that are trying now on a diplomatic level to reach some agreements with their conflicting sides so that they will begin de-escalating. Hard to tell how successful these attempts are going to be, but Russia is definitely engaged in a diplomatic process to de-escalate. And on this very matter, TASS news agencies reported that Oman's foreign minister, and Oman, by the way, is a country that was mediating between US and Iran during these nuclear talks. Oman's foreign minister stated that Iran-US talks on June 15 will not take place, understandably so. And even though Russian side and number of other countries are trying to bring conflicting sides to the negotiating table, it is hard to be optimistic in this regard, because after revelations in Israeli media and also Western media that Trump was engaged together with the Israeli side in a deception operation from the beginning, and so this nuclear talks was just a deception and nothing else. After that, obviously, Iranian side will find it extremely difficult to have meaningful talk with US representatives, because they are just lying, right? They cannot be trusted, period. So unfortunately, prospect of the escalation is seems to be next to none at this point, at least. Also, RIA Novosti reported that despite this complicated situation, Iran is ready to conclude an agreement on guaranteeing that it will not have nuclear weapons. So Tehran, by the way, still demonstrates its readiness to have a nuclear deal, although yet again it is going to be extremely difficult to reach, because how you can trust the American side, nothing to be said about the Israeli side. How Iranian leadership sees this process, that's the biggest question right now. And we have this statement also, by the way, from, for example, President of Iran, Pezeshkian, that Tehran does not seek nuclear weapon, although very same Pezeshkian stated that Iran has information that US was actually involved directly in attacks against Iran. And same was stated by Israeli Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. Although you might be surprised, by the way, but Trump, after bragging about being engaged in this deception operation, after basically praising Israel for attacks on Iran, he came out yesterday, shortly after a phone conversation with the Russian president, if I'm not mistaken on a timeline there, and stated that U.S. has nothing to do with Israel's latest attacks on Iran. I mean, this is really some freaking low-level shit show, right? That the U.S. is engaged, really. And sorry for my French, by the way, but I mean, how are you going to describe this total nonsense that we are witnessing in real time, basically, from U.S.? So U.S. President Donald Trump said the U.S. has nothing to do with Israeli latest attacks on Iran. He added that if Iran were to attack the United States in any way, shape, or form, the full might of American armed forces would be brought down on it on scale never seen before. I don't know, friends. I cannot take seriously this creature, Donald Trump, and anybody from his administration. Anybody, literally, right? They cannot be trusted. They cannot be taken seriously. These are scum of humanity, obviously. And today they are saying one thing, tomorrow another, day after something completely different. And this is happening on a constant basis. So therefore, it is truly unfortunate for all of humanity, by the way, that Western world is being run by such a morons, or such a morons being put in a position of power there. And it is also very unfortunate and extremely dangerous for all of humanity that nuclear powers, by the way, and US is obviously, together with Russia, is a major nuclear power. So nuclear power is run by this clown, and such a clowns, by the way. Yet again, at least formally, we all understand that true decision makers are behind the scenes, and Biden's presidency was a clear demonstration of that, isn't it? Biden barely could understand who he was looking at in a mirror, right? But policies were still conducted, right? Someone was making decisions. And same thing is happening right now. Only difference is that Trump probably understands who he's seeing in the mirror when he's looking at it. He's a little less lost, right? But yet again, I mean, does it change his overall picture? Not really. So that's the biggest worry that I have right now, that the West is being, collective West is being controlled and run by people that cannot be trusted even for a second, and therefore therefore we are in a big trouble, by the way. And while saying we, I mean all of us, all of humanity, because we are talking about not just some Chihuahua states like Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, and so on, but we are talking about nuclear powerhouses, right? US included. And this is dangerous, man. I don't know how anybody can take Trump seriously, man. Just yesterday, day before yesterday, he was bragging about these attacks on Iran. And today he's saying that US has nothing to do with it. Okay. Okay, man. I don't know. RIA Novosti, meanwhile, is reporting that, as I already mentioned, dear friends, not just Iran's president stated that Iran has evidences that US was directly involved in these attacks, but also Foreign Ministry of Iran says that it does not believe US claims of Israeli attacks. Iran has received messages from the United States through various channels that Washington has not participated and will not participate in Israeli attacks. Tehran does not believe this, said the head of the Islamic Republic's Foreign Ministry, Abbas Araghchi. We have received, and then quote of his statement, we have received messages from US through various channels over the past 2 days that the US did not participate. Okay, as I have already said, we do not believe these statements. Arakchi, stated during his interview with the Iranian TV channel, and they are not believing US, rightfully so. I mean, how anybody can? I mean, how anyone can trust anything that comes out from US leadership, man, or the leadership of any other Western country for that matter? I mean, you tell me. But it's impossible. And when it comes to threats of Trump, we all understand, at least to me, it's very clear that this attack on Iran was pre-planned long before it took place. And therefore, now we will witness certain scenarios being played out, how so that US and a number of other NATO member states will get involved openly. They are already involved, but they are still trying to hide their involvement. But it's only a matter of time, potentially days, if not hours, and US, France, UK will get engaged in these attacks against Iran directly. I have no doubts about it. I said many times before that we are witnessing a situation when Zionists and Israeli leadership, also Zionists, neocons in US, and globalists or Western ruling class in general are all on the same page for maybe different reasons, but on the same page that they want to provoke regional war in the Middle East, shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf through Hormuz Strait, to basically attack Chinese economy big time, right? And that's unfortunately that's exactly what is going to happen. Situation is clearly moving in that direction. Only question I have personally is how US and other NATO countries will justify their direct involvement in this war against Iran. And this is a very important topic because based on activities of these criminal regimes in the West, one may assume that they might commit some false flag operation against any of their NATO member states, against US, for example. Israel will happily help with that to conduct some maybe terrorist attack on US soil, or maybe some attack will be conducted on US bases in the Middle East, and there is dozens and dozens of those bases, or maybe US Navy vessel will be attacked, and then Iran will be blamed for that. Or something similar might happen in regards to UK or France, right? There is a quite high probability of that, I think, and that false flag operation probably will be used for a justification of direct involvement of these countries in this war, because they did not start this conflict to stop now. You'll understand that, isn't it? Also, dear friends, right before I start this live stream, reports were coming in that air defense systems was active in Tehran and in a number of other areas in Iran. So strikes on Iran continues, by the way. Although, as I said yesterday, and based on my observation, more and more commentators in alternative media seems to coming to a very same conclusion that I shared with you yesterday, that it seems to me, despite initial thoughts when Israel attacked Iran, it seems to me that this attack was only partially successful or largely unsuccessful even. I will argue Israel tried to decapitate Iranian government, not just militaries, but government, and they failed largely. Even though they managed to assassinate number of high-ranking military officers, number of scientists, while killing dozens of civilians. Overall, I think her attack was largely failure, definitely not the one, with results that Israel and US and UK and France were anticipating. And the same can be said about attacks by Israel on military logistical infrastructure of Iran or nuclear facilities. Certain damage clearly was done, but definitely not a fatal one. And Iran already demonstrated that, isn't it? Day before yesterday, they conducted a retaliatory strike. Yesterday, Iran also conducted a retaliatory strike, more powerful than day before. And I think most likely today, Iran will retaliate again with long-range missile strikes on military and logistical infrastructure, energy infrastructure of Israel. And today's strike, if it will take place, most likely will be even more powerful than yesterday's. And on my Telegram and Twitter X page, I did share a number of videos of yesterday's Iranian strikes on Israeli sites, on targets in Israel. And well, let me show you some of these videos, dear friends. For example, you can see one of the explosions, missile strike. There is this video, for example. Also, missile strike. This is Tel Aviv, by the way. Yesterday, Iran struck Haifa, certain areas of Haifa. Also, very powerful explosion there. This is also Tel Aviv. And this footage, by the way, here is Haifa. Now you can see on your screen a bunch of missiles that are flying towards Haifa. Air defense is working clearly, but unable to intercept all of their incoming missiles. Also strikes on Haifa, by the way. And Israeli side stated that they only launched 70 missiles yesterday. So if that is true, then a significant number, probably over 50% of missiles did manage to bypass Israeli air defense systems. Although, yet again, this is a high-intensity conflict. And this is high-intensity conflict, and obviously we cannot take all the news that we are receiving for face value. We have to be more critical. Fog of war is definitely plays a big role. And by the way, when it comes to fog of war, Israel, as I mentioned yesterday and day before also, Israel was sharing, in attempt to basically create this picture that they are winning. They were sharing many videos on which you can clearly see, you don't have to be a military expert to realize that in those videos, Israeli planes were spending or using multi-million-dollar weapons on decoys. That was my impression, and I shared my take with you on that matter. And today videos surfaced on internet, by the way, that are confirming that yes, significant number of targets that Israel knocked out was just decoys that were placed in certain areas by IRGC exactly for that purpose, to dilute Israeli strike on these decoys. And let me show you a video, by the way, that surfaced today. At least I saw it today. This one.
5 دستگاه
I mean, you can clearly see it's a decoy, right? In some constructions that look like trucks in which missiles could be hidden, but in reality, it's just decoys. And to destroy these dummy targets, who knows how many, yet again, extremely expensive missiles were spent by Israeli forces. Something to take in account, you know. And it's not just Iran, by the way, that retaliated yesterday. Yemeni Houthis or Ansar Allah movement also made the statement that they launched missiles towards Tel Aviv. Hard to tell how successful this strike was, but yes, I mean, despite all the attempts of US or Israel, and before them Saudi Arabia, UAE, to decimate military capabilities of Ansar Allah movement, well, they are well capable of launching these ballistic missiles until now, and this demonstrates, dear friends, that in a modern warfare it is practically impossible to defeat enemy without ground forces. Even with ground forces, you are not guaranteed that you will succeed. But without ground forces, most likely you would not. And Houthi rebels clearly demonstrating that, isn't it? For 9 years, Saudi Arabia, UAE, with the assistance of NATO member states, US, UK, and so on, were targeting Houthis. They also send ground forces, and they still lose. And by the way, and were forced to basically sign up for some peace agreement with the Houthis. And then US, by the way, and UK and a number of other NATO member states get engaged directly in these attacks, right? And the result was that US was forced to back down, basically, and ask Houthis for a ceasefire. They didn't manage to basically achieve much, right? And so if Israel, US, UK, and all the other countries that are now directly or indirectly, but soon completely directly engaged or going to be engaged in this war against Iran, if those countries, leadership of those countries, are thinking that they're going to defeat Iran with their airstrikes, I mean, oh, okay, some technical issue here. So yes, I mean, if leadership of Israel or US or UK thinks that they're going to defeat Iran just with these strikes, airstrikes, missile strikes, and so on, they are so wrong, by the way. And when it comes to ground forces, eventually, maybe that's what is going to happen, and NATO countries will send their ground forces. Maybe Israel also, maybe number of regional countries will get engaged in a direct clash with Iran too, but they're not going to defeat Iran anyways. I don't think NATO is capable of defeating Iran with Israel and with whomever. You know, we will see. And there is also very scary scenarios, by the way, that being discussed on the internet now, that if current assault on Iran will fail, assault by Israel and its NATO backers, then Israel might resolve to nuclear strikes. Israel's defense minister already stated that they might burn Tehran, which was a clearly threat that nukes might be used against Iran. And well, that is very scary prospect, obviously. Israel leadership well capable of doing so. I have no doubts about it. They're not going to defeat Iran even in that case. But what they're going to do is they might actually provoke World War III while deploying nukes against Iran. If if they will go ahead with their such a crazy ideas. And according to some reports that I see on internet, that they already have an operation in a plan to do so. If this current operation, Horizon Line or some crazy stuff is going to fail, and it is failing, by the way, it's already clear that this operation that Israel started against Iran is failing. And before I continue, dear friends, let me notice that, as I already said in the beginning, independent media projects only exist as long as they have community support. So if you like my work, and if you can help me to maintain this project, please consider to do so. You can support with donations through PayPal or Boosty platforms. And when it comes to PayPal, by the way, I have a new PayPal account. My wife, to be more precise, created a new PayPal account a couple of months ago, and I'm using now that account. So please make sure that you are using new link, not the old one. And new links are under, every my video since the creation of that account, right? Almost every other day, I see comments when members are asking that, does PayPal work, sir? They want to donate, but they cannot because they are using old link, right? And I have a new one. So if you are one of those members of community that want to donate, but in your notebook or phone, there is a link to older account. If you have already donated some 3 or 5 months ago, then make sure that you have a new linker. It is under my videos in description box and in the pinned comment. Yes, you can subscribe, by the way, to my Patreon page. Obviously, this project, to be safe, really, somehow income that project has to double. And in that case, I would not be that stressed, and I will know that what project can survive, right? It's not going to be month to month struggle. Or if community, if our community will increase significantly on Patreon, for example, or Boosty, by the way. On Boosty, I only have like 12 paid subscribers right now, my page there. On Patreon, situation is a bit better, but still project is constantly in surviving mode. So yes, all the links, PayPal, Boosty, Patreon, crypto, is on this video in the description box and in the pinned comment. And during the live streams, you can also use Rumble, obviously, for support, super chat feature there. And there's some other options. Also, you can become a premium subscriber, for example. So yes, and many thanks to everybody who already helped and continues to support, so that I'm able to stay in this field of news and political commentary. Meanwhile, dear friends, TASS News Agency is reporting that IAEA says 4 key buildings at the Isfahan nuclear site was damaged, and still no precise information about radiation levels, by the way, on any of their targeted nuclear facilities in Iran. Yesterday, I saw a report that IAEA representatives were saying that radiation level outside of these nuclear facilities are on a natural level or in a norm. And the first question I had, how come? Did the radioactive particles ask permission to leave the premises? Or what? How it can be that radioactive level is increased in a facility which was targeted, but not outside of facility? These people, by the way, in IAEA and in general, leadership of Collective West probably thinks all of us are idiots, man. They are insulting our intelligence day in, day out. It's unbelievable, Iran itself is not really sharing much information about attacks of Israel, about situation in nuclear facilities. Maybe they are sharing information with neighboring countries, but I did not see any report in the media, any precise report about scale of damage and levels of radiation. And this is a big issue, isn't it? Potentially, tens of millions of people are in danger by these Israeli attacks on nuclear facilities. This is first time in history, by the way, anything like that is happening. Never ever before, with the exception of Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky, by the way, who also on a regular basis targets nuclear facilities. I mean, before that, there was no such instances, right? When in such a scale, nuclear facilities were targeted. Yet again, Israel did target nuclear facilities in Iraq, I believe, and in Libya, in Iraq for sure. But yet again, it was just one go strike. It was not like they were bombing nuclear facilities every single day. And Iran has dozens of nuclear objects, not one object that was in Iraq, for example. So risk of radioactive pollution is tremendously high. Kommersant newspaper, meanwhile, is reporting that Israel asked US to join a war with Iran. Israeli authorities have been asking the US presidential administration to join the war with Iran for the past 2 days. Axios reports, citing sources, Donald Trump, according to publication, has allowed the participation of the US military in the operation against the Iran nuclear program if necessary. Yet again, US is already participating, by the way. This information is about what, really? We all know that US is already participating, and Axios and many other media outlets are just engaged in the preparation of the ground for open involvement of US and other NATO member states. That's what this information is about, really. And I believe Israeli leadership had no need to ask Trump to join this war against Iran in past 2 days. I'm quite sure Israeli leadership, Trump's administration, leadership in UK, France, number of other NATO member states have already agreed on a plan that they have in regards to this war. It's only question is how they will unveil these plans, how they will take their steps, how they will justify their actions. That's the only question. Otherwise, if anybody thinks that the US was not informed, did not knew, not engaged, come on, man. It's nonsense, right? Kommersant newspaper also reporting that, Netanyahu, exactly in terms of creating a ground for US open involvement in this war against Iran, Netanyahu stated yesterday that Iran tried to kill Donald Trump twice. This information should outrage Trump supporters and create this wave of Israeli support and calls for US to get engaged in this war. But I don't think it will work out. I'm afraid what Israeli Secret Services and US Secret Services and a number of others going to do is false flag operations. They're going to do false flag operations. I cannot know what false flag operations. It depends on basically fantasy of these people, right? They have means to come up with any sort of false flag operation. And I'm afraid they're going to do it. But such statements like Netanyahu made is just additional weight that has been created. That's all. Why only twice? Did anybody ask Netanyahu why Iran tried only twice to kill Donald Trump? Why not like 15,000 times or 20,000 times or million times? And why just Iran? Maybe Iran was cooperating with aliens while doing so. And therefore, Iranians are aliens, and therefore, US have to get engaged. It's a war against aliens, right? Freaking unbelievable, man. As I said, you cannot take these people seriously, but unfortunately, they have power. this war criminal, this genocidal maniac, Netanyahu, and Israeli secret services, they do have a power, right, to do all sorts of provocations, and they do, by the way. They are killing tens of thousands of people already, right? And they're well capable of killing millions. They are threatening Tehran. They are threatening Iran with nuclear strike on Tehran, by the way, right? And people that are in charge in US or UK or France or Germany are no any better than these ones, by the way. US, meanwhile, is ordering its citizens to leave Iran immediately, citing serious increasing dangers due to rising regional tensions. This information may be seen as a prelude for US's direct involvement in this attack. As I said, by the way, it's only a matter of days, right? We all understand that it's only a matter of days, and the US leadership will come up with some agenda, with some fabricated justification to directly attack Iran. It's going to be false flag or something else, but they're going to get engaged directly in this war, because Israel alone, I mean, they're going to run out of missiles, by the way, pretty soon, right? Without achieving much. And everyone understands that. And little by little, but Iran going to bring down more and more planes of Israel. Iran's air defense systems going to become more and more capable, no less, but more and more capable. So Israel, at one point, without direct involvement of US and other NATO member states, Israel will, at one moment, will just run out of steam and would not be able to continue. So globalists, neocons, and Zionists need direct involvement of NATO countries in this war against Iran. If they are absolutely focused, and they are, in my personal opinion, to provoke regional war in the Middle East. And also, TASS News is reporting that Elon Musk announced their activation of their Starlink over the Iran. Well, one of their hopes of Israeli regime and its Western backers probably was that they would decapitate political and military leadership of Iran, and therefore there will be some regime change or something like that. And Musk is not really that clever as some tries to present him, isn't it? Not really that informed, and he is acting according to plan. By the way, he announced that Starlink is active, although, by the way, there is no demonstrations in Iran, right? This was a pre-planned, obviously, right? Because most likely there was expectations in the West and in Israel that they're going to decapitate Iranian leadership, and demonstrations are going to take place, and they will need Starlink would be a useful tool in that case. There are no demonstrations. It's exactly the opposite. According to people that are familiar with the situation in Iran, according to their reports, it's exactly the opposite, as it was expected. People are getting united more and more. Society is more united because they all are under attack, right? But Musk, he had the order to do it, and he did it. Okay. It's not gonna bring down Iran's government, by the way. RT is also reporting that former Trump aide calls for America first over there Israel. Well, people in America, by the way, people in US still struggling to realize that they've been all played. They all been played, by the way, by Trump and by his inner circle. And this person was at one point part of inner circle of Trump, as far as I can tell. I'm talking about Steve Bannon, by the way. So the US should pursue its own interests rather than those of Israel. Steve Bannon, former aide to US President Donald Trump, has stated, warning that the new escalation in the Middle East could potentially drag Washington into a war with Iran. And he has a point for sure, but how come that he still don't understand that he's being played? That Trump was never Trump was chosen by Zionists and the neocons not because he was a peace president or he was going to be one, but because he would sign up for anything that he was given, right? Any paper that he was given by either Zionists, either neocons. And how come that Steve Bannon and many other public figures in US still don't understand that they just simply being played, all of them. And by the way, once the US will get engaged in this war with Iran directly, openly, well, that will may be a beginning of the end of US itself as a state, US as we knew it. Especially if it comes to, if US leadership will decide to send their ground forces into Iran. According to reports that I have seen in past years, anytime Pentagon conducted their simulations of the war with Iran, they were losing. US was never winning, right? They were losing with the tens of thousands of casualties. So, if Washington will go ahead, or if globalists, neocons, and so on will order Trump to send the ground troops, not just to participate in airstrikes, missile strikes, and so on, but also to send ground troops, then, well, that might well be the beginning of the end of US as we knew it, because they're going to suffer tremendous casualties and humiliating defeat. 110%, by the way. There can be no doubts about that, even for a second. Do you see a parade that took place in Washington? And if you have seen it, I saw some fragments, by the way. I have no time to watch that kind of stuff, to spend like hours watching that kind of stuff. But I saw some videos, short clips, and well, I didn't see army there. I mean, truly, I didn't see army. Capable army, by the way. Only question I had there was, first reaction was, did these people even train, at least for rehearsal, or did these people even care to organize this parade in a decent manner? It was a parade for U.S. Army to demonstrate U.S. Army and in a good light, or it was an advertising campaign for several companies that were sponsors of this parade or something. It was shameful disposal, by the way, absolutely, right? Some nonsense. And that army, by the way, definitely, maybe well capable of killing civilians, as they did already in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, in Afghanistan, in Yemen, in Somalia. Many countries, right? They are well capable of killing civilians, but are they capable of fighting a real war against enemy that is willing to fight? I don't think so. I really don't. Anyways, well, preparations for NATO's engagement in this war against Iran continues, and the UK's Prime Minister Keir Starmer stated that UK is moving jets to Middle East, not ruling out defending Israel. Well, whatever they mean by defending Israel, by the way, UK's aviation is already engaged there. I saw like an hour ago report. I didn't share on my Telegram and Twitter X page because I need some more confirmations to make sure that information is correct. And so we should take this report with a pinch of salt. But On one of the big Telegram channels, by the way, I saw a report that a British F-35 landed somewhere in India. I mean, somewhere in India. I don't know how that happened. Maybe on some island, potentially, because in a picture I saw palm trees. So report was that British F-35 landed there somewhere in India that was participating in intercepting Iranian drones and the missiles. Let's take this information with a pinch of salt. Maybe it was an Israeli plane, not a UK plane, because I'm not even sure UK has ground-based F-35s. They do have F-35s that are based on aircraft carriers, but I don't know what happened, But UK most likely is already engaged. That's all I want to say. UK most likely is already engaged in this war against Iran. Now they might are providing intelligence. They are trying to intercept some Iranian drones and missiles, but it's only a matter of most likely a couple of days, maximum week or two, and UK together with US and France and others will be directly engaged in this war, and that's going to be a disaster for UK too. By the way, they're not going to defeat Iran, impossible. And one of the reasons why they're not going to defeat Iran is that the Iranian people have friends. Iranian people have friends in the region and worldwide. And interesting news I spotted today on internet. I shared on my Telegram and Twitter X page too, that more gifts are on the way to Iran from China. An Airbus A330 cargo aircraft departing from Guangzhou International Airport has been tracked flying southwest over the eastern Turkmenistan. It turned off a transponder before reaching Iranian airspace. So one may guess what was in that plane that was heading towards Iran. Maybe some toys, maybe some radars, maybe some missiles, maybe God knows what else. Right, and I think it's not just China that directly or indirectly will help Iran. Russia will do the same, and many other countries, by the way. Although Russia don't need aircrafts to be used to transfer humanitarian aid, let's say, to Iran, Caspian Sea can be used for that purposes, and maybe already being used. We just don't know, right? So yes, Iran is not alone. That's all I want to say. And probably I wouldn't be mistaken if I would say that vast majority of humanity supports Iran right now. Iranian people, by the way, right? No matter what we think about government of Iran, I think vast majority of humanity is in support of Iranian people against their this aggression that is happening against them, right? So, I mean, you share your take, dear friends, but I think I'm not wrong while making such a bold claim. I guess that vast majority of people probably and most likely are in support of Iranian people and wish them a well and successful success in defending themselves from this aggression. And they will, by the way. Iran will prevail. I mean, Israel, US, other NATO member states, or let's say Zionists, neocons, and globalists, not going to defeat Iran. It's not happening. Impossible. TASS news agency is also reporting that Iran, according to a number of reports, by the way, not just in TASS, but elsewhere too, Iran considers closing Strait of Hormuz after Israeli attacks. Up to 30% of global LNG supply and up to 20% of global oil and oil product exports pass through it, said Esmail Kosari, a member of the Parliamentary Committee on National Security and Foreign Policy. And well, I can understand that Iran is considering such a drastic step to shut down Hormuz Strait, but I don't think Iran will do it because it's not in Iran's interests. It's not in interests of friendly nations to Iran, China, India, Russia. I mean, although Indian government, by the way, I mean, I struggle to understand why Indian government is siding with Israel. It seems like not with Iran. It's wrong in so many levels, by the way. Maybe my impression is mistaken, maybe, but it seems to me that somehow Indian government is siding with Israel. I hope I am wrong on that, right? But anyways, shutting down navigation in Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait is in interests of globalists. That's why they are trying to provoke this regional war. It's not in interests of either Iran or China or Russia or world, by the way. It's not in interests of the world. So therefore, most likely Iran will make some strong statements about potential possibility of shutting down Hormuz Strait, but will not do this unless they have no option whatsoever. If Iran is attacked also by Gulf states, let's say Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, if these countries will be engaged there in war against Iran, not just indirectly as they are right now, by the way. You think Israeli planes are flying from where? Through which airspace? Right? And how they are receiving intelligence. So these countries, regional countries, I think already are indirectly involved in this operation on Israeli side. But if US will get engaged in wars, and when US will get engaged in direct war, and US has bases all over the Persian Gulf, right? Then I think Iran will have no option but to take some action and potentially shut down navigation in the Gulf, in the Persian Gulf through Hormuz Strait. I guess enemies of Iran will also participate in that, because after all, that is the main goal of the globalists, to shut down navigation through Persian Gulf. So to strike on China, by the way, to strike Chinese economy, because as already said, based on latest information, up to 30% of global LNG is passing through Hormuz Strait, and up to 20% of global oil and oil products. And this is huge, right? This is huge. Maybe this is even conservative estimates, but in any case, this is huge. And China is a main importer of the energy from the region. So therefore, I think Iran will make statements, but unless it's absolutely necessary, they will not shut down Strait of Hormuz, because it's a globalist plan. Iran has no interest in that. It's exactly the opposite. Iran wants navigation to be open, so that Iran itself will benefit from that. And dear friends, this is it when it comes to the news segment. Hopefully you find it informative and useful. And now let's have a community chat. Let's exchange opinions in real time. I will monitor questions. If there are going to be any questions through support platforms, of course, I will react on that first. And if you can, please put capital later, capital Q before question, or at least several capital letters, so that I will notice it easier. Once again, hello everyone, and thank you for your attention. And let's have a chat, by the way. Let's have a chat. Situation is very serious, isn't it? I mean, very serious. Banzo Beans, hello John. Banzo Beans, our moderator on Rumble. Uh, I'd suggest extending your intro counter a little, 2 minutes maybe. So that when live stream starts, I believe notification may be sent uh, to community members, and maybe these 2 minutes will. Yeah, I see what you mean. Maybe more people will join before stream itself will start. Thank you for recommendation, John. I think it's a good idea. 2 minutes, maybe it's too much, but I don't know. I just can start 2 minutes before actual time of the beginning of the stream. Like if from Monday to Friday, usually I have like at 11, right? Stream. So I can start stream at 10:58. So that first 2 minutes, there will be this discount. Okay. I mean, I see your argument. So thank you for that. Pum, pum, pum. Yeah, situation. And meanwhile, dear friends, I will also monitor some channels for additional information. There is a crackdown on demonstrators in anti-LGBT demonstrators in Moldova, in Chisinau, and local police is acting like crazy, sir. They're beating up people, even priests, by the way. I mean, local police, this criminal regime of Maya Sandu in Moldova was beating priests, by the way, Orthodox priests. I mean, they are Satanists, these bastards, man. Moldova is finished. As I said many times, sir, before, Moldova is finished, only a matter of time, and this country will undergo full-scale disintegration, 100%. Let's see some questions. Odd one too is commenting. What's autopen? Yes, I mean that's exactly what I meant. By the way, when I was talking about Biden's administration, he barely understood who he was and where he was, right? But someone was, making decisions, and and it's just institutional stuff, isn't it? Certain papers has to be signed, and someone was actually signing those papers for Biden. You know, and the only difference from Biden's administration to Trump's administration is that, well, Trump is, in a better health condition, let's say, in better mental health condition, at least slightly, right? At least he can understand who he is when he is watching mirror. But quite often he does make such statements that one may actually question his mental health, and probably people will start questioning his mental health. Just give it another couple of months, by the way, and I'm monitoring chat, dear friends, right now. But I see no questions. Sorry if I miss your questions, dear friends, but I don't see one. Kevin Morris is asking if Iran fails and they put a puppet regime that will open Russia's southern flanker, will it not? It will. It will, obviously. I'm on the same page with you on that, but I don't think they're going to manage to topple this government in Iran. By they, I mean Zionists, neocons, and the globalists. I don't think they're going to succeed. And they don't want simple regime change, by the way. They want regional war. In my understanding of the big picture, they want navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait to be shut down, to hurt the Chinese economy as much as they possibly can, right, by this operation. So therefore, they are not interested in that much in regime change, right? They might talk about it, and they might use certain elements of regime change to destabilize the situation. But what they want is to shut down navigation. And to do so, they have to provoke regional war. How are they going to provoke regional war? I'm afraid they will try to provoke conflict between Iran and their Gulf states. Direct involvement of US, UK, France, and so on, and Israel may not be enough. They might provoke actually war between Iran and Saudi Arabia, Iran and UAE, Iran and Qatar, Iran and Bahrain. All these countries are hosting US military bases, by the way, right? And if that will happen, obviously in that case, I mean, Iran is on one side of the strait, this Persian Gulf, and these countries are on another. If they are engaged in military hostilities, then navigation obviously is killed in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. That's the way they will go, probably. And probably, most likely they already have plans in place how they're going to provoke this war, right? They might attack Saudi Arabia. They might conduct false flag operation against Saudi tankers, Saudi military vessels, maybe against Saudi royal family, and then blame Iran. They might do it against UAE, against Qatar or Bahrain or, I don't know, Kuwait, right? Unfortunately, these people that are in charge of Israel and the collective West and people that are pulling the strings, they have means and they are capable of literally anything. So, therefore, I think they want a long-term destabilization of in the Middle East to achieve this goal to shut down navigation so that the Chinese economy will receive a very significant hit, by the way. World economy too, obviously, but globalists, they are fighting for their survival. Many people may be not realizing that globalists are fighting for their survival because they are losing grip on this world, right? Western ruling classes was basically, in charge of this world, most of it, for the last 300 to 500 years, and they are losing it right now, isn't it? Because of their emerging multipolar world, because of China, global South. They have more and more opposition, and they are becoming less and less relevant. And only way in their sick mind, I think, to maintain relevance is to destroy whatever countries, whatever people they feel are their threat to them, their dominance. So that's why they will sacrifice literally everybody, including people in the West too. And they are doing so already, isn't it? I mean, take a look at their actions of Brussels, by the way. They are hurting their own fellow citizens. They are destroying economies of Europe with the current policies against Russia, for example. But they still are doing this, isn't it? Because for them, their own survival is number one priority. They don't care about anyone else, anything else, right? Including people that are living in the West. So therefore, I think this conflict is going to be a long one that we are witnessing, no beginning of which we are witnessing right now in the Middle East. And one of the main goals is not necessarily regime change in Iran, but regional war to shut down navigation in major waterways there. Peter Wilder Beast is commenting, how is the supply of commodities in Russia? I suspect doing well. I mean, if you are a subscriber to my Patreon, dear friends, or Boosty, you can scroll there and find videos that I made there in different shopping malls or their supermarkets and so on. I mean, it's full of everything, man. Full of goods. You just, whatever you want, you can go buy. For rich people, there are one stores, right? It is like everywhere in this world, by the way. For rich people, there are stores that I don't go, for example, because it's just too expensive. But for ordinary people like myself, there are other stores, right? Other supermarkets, and but we can go and buy anything in terms of our budget, right? But supply chain is working quite okay in terms of literally everything, right? You can buy literally anything you want, like it is in, I don't know, man, in London or in Paris or New York, or maybe situation in Russia is actually better than in the West. I don't know. I wouldn't speculate on that, but if you have seen some propaganda videos of the Western ruling class, that recently I saw, by the way, reports on one of the Western media that there was no sugar and oil in Russian supermarkets. And I could not believe, by the way, when I saw that news, I could not believe that this media outlet actually published this garbage. I mean, they are just making up stories, by the way. I mean, that's stupid, but unfortunately, people in the West probably believing that kind of stuff, right? It's crazy, man. Let's continue. Number 6 is commenting, I like astronomy, the same as you. Please give your opinion on the influence of Soviet communism on today's society. Well, I mean, this is question that her answer will take a very long time to give informative answer. There was good and bad things, by the way, obviously, during the communist era, right? I'm not a big fan of communists. Probably our community knows that already. I'm not big fan of Bolsheviks. But I would not deny that there was many things that was Soviet Union was actually, pioneering in this world. From a standpoint of scientific research and development to social developments, right? For example, while in US, by the way, people of different races were unable to enter one building or one bus, there was segregation not so long ago, by the way. In Soviet Union, uh, I mean, equality and or how all this terminology that is used by the West, by the way, same rights and so on was already adopted. Like women, by the way, was voting in Soviet Union since the creation of the country, I believe, right? Was one of the first countries where women actually had the voting right. And yet again, I mean, you have to be prepared to answer this question because there is so many examples when Soviet Union was actually pioneering many things in terms of social life, social developments, and also in terms of scientific research and so on. I mean, you mentioned astronomy. Well, Soviet Union was leading research in space flights, isn't it? First satellite was Soviet Union. First crewed mission was Soviet Union. First man cosmonaut, first female cosmonaut. Soviet Union was first to actually study Venus planet, right? No one until now, by the way, no one has done as much as Soviet Union did at the time to do some research of Venus, right? And there was many other stories, by the way. In many ways, society in Soviet Union were much more advanced from a civilization standpoint than in Western countries. In many other countries, by the way, especially Western ones. I mean, U.S. By the way, some people may don't realizing that a number of decades ago, like in 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, by the way, there was still segregation. And people of different races were treated differently. I mean, how shameful is that? But that's what was happening, right? You know? So, yet again, a very complex question. And I have, if I had this question through my Patreon or Boosty, I would actually work on the question and I would give you a really informative answer because it's complex stuff, right? And by the way, I mean, if there is really interest, that's why I'm saying if I receive question through Patreon or Boosty or through support platforms, if I see that this question demands some research to be done and some complex answer to be given, then I will spend time on that, and why not? It would be interesting to me also. I mean, Dijuman is asking, is there Patreon PayPal still operational? Yes, I have Patreon, by the way, and I have PayPal. So if you can use this. I mean, me personally, I cannot open PayPal because of the sanctions, but my wife can. And my wife opened the PayPal account. And earlier, Magda, our moderator, was helping me with the Patreon, with the PayPal, sorry. But last 2 or 3 months ago, my wife created their account on PayPal, and now I'm using her PayPal account, right? So there is a ways, by the way, to do it. And when it comes to Patreon, I'm quite regularly publishing new videos, extra content that are exclusive for Patreon and the Boosty. So it's operational, yes. And your friends, if you can, please click that like button and leave some commentary. After live stream in the comment section. Um, True Gambit is commenting, do you think this war started in Iran now because the Ukrainian war is nearing the finish? Some might see such argument, but unfortunately, I don't think Ukraine conflict is nearing its end. Most likely, Russia will have no option but to continue special military operation and liberate either whole of Ukraine from this Western-backed terrorist regime of Zelensky and all the Nazis, or liberate at least all the areas, with the exception of maybe Western Ukraine, because Western Ukraine has its own history. It used to be part of neighboring countries, right? Poland, Hungary, and Romania, and I guess those countries will take care of it, right? They will reclaim that area. But when it comes to the rest of the territory of this former Soviet Republic, I think Russia will have no option but to go all in and liberate all of it, and then put in place programs of the denazification to bring to the senses people that were brainwashed and indoctrinated in this Nazi ideology by the Western regimes there and Western propaganda. It's going to be a long process, by the way, obviously. But when it comes to military phase of this struggle, I'm afraid it will continue for, I guess, at least another year or two, especially because it seems like globalists are not ready to acknowledge the reality, to face the reality, to acknowledge that they have lost this proxy war. And as long as they are, giving money, giving weapons to their proxy regime in Kiev, and as long as there is anybody left on Kiev-controlled territory now to be mobilized forcefully and then thrown into trenches, they will continue to do so, and that means that Russia will have to just go all the way, and it will take time, maybe another year, maybe two, maybe three, I don't know, but that's the way it seems to me right now. And therefore, I don't think there is that much direct connection between Ukrainian crisis and current attack on Iran. I mean, Western ruling class globalists, they were planning regional war in the Middle East for quite a while, and at some point they would start it, right? And they did it now. They did it now to somehow weaken China yet again. As I said, they want to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf to hit Chinese economy, to destabilize somehow China internally, right? This is one of the ways, by the way. Same time, and this is not the only way that West is trying to and will continue to fight against China. Pay close attention to Central Asia, by the way. I'm quite sure terrorists from Syria that were trained in Idlib province when there was still Assad's regime there, those terrorists going to be transferred to Central Asia in the republics that are bordering China, and then those republics themselves, West will try to destabilize so that these terrorists will have some safe havens on the borderline areas to penetrate China and destabilize China that way. And collective West will attack China in many other ways too. So it's not just a current war in the Middle East that many people don't see it as I do, but I think this war for globalists and neocons Western ruling class, this war is primarily attempt to strike China. For Israelis have different reasons, right? But neocons and globalists are, all about China, right? Neocons are all about any war, really, because that's how they make money. But when it comes to decision makers, when it comes to globalists, Western ruling class, they are attacking China. So they had to start at one point, and they did it now. Bhagavad Gita is commenting, do you think Israel, US will nuke Iran? If not, why not? I think they will, unfortunately. I'm afraid there is a high probability that Israel will use nuclear weapons against Iran, because with conventional weapons, they're not going to achieve much, because yet again, nuclear facilities, main part of it is deep underground. Manufacturing plants, by the way, mainly are deep underground military manufacturing plants, right? And if you take out like office building on top, I mean, what kind of damage is that, right? For the manufacturing itself, it's nothing. So therefore, Israeli leadership may actually go ahead with the nuclear attacks on Iran. What will stop them? I mean, they already proved that they have no dignity, no decency, no morality, no nothing, right? So what will stop them? So there is a high risk, in my understanding, there is a high risk that Israel, I'm not sure US will do it, although US leadership is also quite capable of signing up for such a crime. But Israel might do it for sure. And if you're asking, if not, why not? Well, they are attacking sovereign country for no reason, right? They are hated already, by the way. Vast majority of humanity already hates Israel, already hates US, collective West countries. I mean, let's be real here. Vast majority of humanity hates collective West, right? And almost everything about it, due to criminal actions of the collective West itself. I mean, how many million people were killed in last several decades by the collective West, including Israel, by the way. I include Israel in the collective West. How many million people? Just in Iraq, according to reports, US and its allies killed over a million people, by the way. And who knows how many more were killed as a result of long-term consequences of a US aggression, right? How many people were killed in Libya? Does anybody knows? I'm literally, is there even one human being on this planet who knows how many people were killed in Libya? No one knows, right? It's a hellhole right now. How many people were killed in Afghanistan? Does anybody knows? In Syria? They create in African nations, by the way. Collective West itself created this, acted in the way and behaved in the way that, I mean, they basically forced majority of the humans to hate collective West and almost everything about it, man. You know, and if now they will start nuking Iran, by the way, that might, it's, if Israel nukes Iran, that's the one story, right? But if US nukes Iran, well, that might trigger a response from other nuclear countries. Even Israeli strike may trigger China, for example. It's a nuclear weapons, right? And once again, one should keep in mind that this is an unprovoked attack. Absolutely, Iran did not bring its military infrastructure to Israel. Iran did not bomb Israel, right? For no reason. Iran did nothing, basically, and was engaged in negotiations and still are open for negotiations. But this is not what Israelis want and what collective West leadership wants, right? And one should keep in mind, dear friends, that Pakistan is also a nuclear country. And I can imagine that in the Muslim world, many people are now seeing all these developments in Gaza and now against Iran as Jewish and Christian people killing Muslims. That's how many people in the Muslim world gonna see this, right? And they will put significant pressure on their own governments, right? Already, process is already even visible in number of directions. And for example, in Pakistan, you think Pakistani defense minister made quite a strong statements recently, like yesterday that was, or day before, for no reason. Even though US has a strong grip on Pakistan, I mean, local government and army is in charge there, right? Local leadership is experiencing significant pressure from the people, right? And if Israel attacks Iran with nukes, well, Pakistan might say, you know what, I'm going to take action here. And it's a nuclear country and has all the means to deliver, by the way. So that's one more reason why not. And also, dear friends, as I said, Russia is not in Russia, China, and the majority of this world don't want further escalation to happen, don't want regional war to happen there, right? And I already explained why further escalation is dangerous, not just for a region, but also, let's say, for world economy and for Chinese economy, for example. And China, if it comes to it, might, technically speaking, quite can be in a position to use its influence in Pakistan to encourage local leaders to make it clear that if Israel attacks Iran with nukes, then Pakistan will respond in kind. That might also happen. Or maybe that will deter Israel, maybe, you know. Also, Katie makes is commenting, what do you expect in Moldova and Transnistria? Well, I thank you for your question, Katie. I think Moldova is destined for full-scale disintegration. It's not just Transnistria, but also Gagauzia autonomous region that will break away, and some other parts of Moldova also, where predominantly Russian speakers are living. And the rest of the territory probably will eventually join Romania. So society there is divided, isn't it? One part of society thinks they are Romanians and they want to be part of Romania. And there is a other part of the society that has its own identity and don't want to have anything with Romania. They are not against Romania necessarily, or Romanians, by the way, but they want to be themselves, right? And they prefer to have closer ties with Russia. So therefore, Moldova, which is a artificial entity, isn't it? It was created by Bolsheviks. Not just Ukraine was created by Bolsheviks and the communists, but Moldova too. Moldova was a part of Romania, right? And so this artificial entity will most likely in next 5 to 10 years undergo a process of full-scale disintegration and will disappear from political map. Hopefully, this will happen without bloodshed, right? Without internal large-scale civil war and that kind of negativity. But such a risk is also there. But disintegration of Moldova itself is, it seems to me, absolutely inevitable. Also, dear friends, Smoky Seal is commenting on why Israel want regime change. Their press was recently blown up in his helicopter. Now they have a new press that wanted to be friends with the US. Well, this is true. I see your point. I see your point. Yet again, I'm not sure that globalists want regime change in Iran. I'm absolutely sure that globalists want protracted war. They want regional war to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. So therefore, some elements in the West, some elements in Israel might actually want to topple the current government, but most importantly, system, by the way, this theocracy, right? Because technically speaking, even though Iran has a president, Iran has a parliament, and so on, it's still theocracy, right? Supreme leader is much more powerful than a president, for example. And maybe certain groups in Israel and in the West would like to destroy this system, this theocracy, right? And to transform Iran either into republic or maybe into monarchy again, because one should keep in mind that son of former Shah of Iran is still alive and lives somewhere in US, right? And technically speaking, I mean, it is a possibility that that person might say that, you know what, I'm a legit ruler of Iran now, and and theoretically speaking, I mean, if West will defeat Iran, they can put in power that person, right? But I cannot remember name of that guy. It's like 50-year-old or 60-year-old person, maybe even older, by the way. But yet again, even if certain groups in the West want regime change or change of system, not necessarily regime, but system, they don't want theocracy. They want get rid of that, right? Much more powerful elements in the West are focused on something else. They are focused on regional war to shut down, yet again, to strike. They are engaged in a war with China already, right? So they don't care about Iran, they don't care about Israel, they don't care about any of it. What they care is to take out China. And one of the ways they think they can weaken China is to provoke regional war in the Middle East, shut down navigation through Hormuz Strait in the Persian Gulf, and dealt significant damage to Chinese economy. And it is going to be significant damage, by the way. No questions about that. So therefore, I think regime changes, even though already talks are happening in the Western propaganda outlets about regime change and all that kind of stuff, I don't think this is the priority of the most influential forces in the West that are basically pulling the strings. Some smaller groups probably want some regime change. They want to get rid of current government and put in place their puppets so that they will benefit from it, right? From that. But true decision makers, whoever they are, they want regional war. They are engaged in war with China, by the way, already. They don't care about Iran or Israel or Middle East whatsoever. They will do whatever they can do to harm China. In any way possible, by the way. It is already Third World War, right? And the collective West and its proxy countries already are engaged in an asymmetrical, let's say, war or undeclared war or Cold War with China. It's just factual. Nidish Kumar is asking Luan, why should India support Iran? They openly supported Pakistan recently. All they care about is who belongs to their religion. Look at their Bangladesh. After all, we have done, they still hate us. Well, Iran is a little bit different, Nidish, isn't it? I mean, as far as I'm not an expert in Iran, obviously, right? But Iran is a Shiite country, and as far as I can tell, Iran was good to its neighbors for the last many decades. Historically speaking, I'm from Georgia, by the way, originally, right? And Georgia, parts of Georgia was occupied by Persian Empire. And there was huge wars, by the way, right? Although Turkey was also a historical enemy of Georgia, for that matter. But so that I do know something about Iran, right? But lately, I mean, if we take last century or two, Iran was quite good to its neighbors, right? When last time Iran attacked unprovokedly anybody, any neighbor? Never. Iran was attacked by Iraq, by the way, right? During the Saddam's reign, and Saddam Hussein was enjoying full support of collective West at the time, including deliveries of weapons, deliveries of chemical weapons, not just armored vehicles and munition, but West was engaged in production of chemical weapons in Iraq that then was used against Kurds by Saddam Hussein and against Iranians, right? So Iran itself, I don't know, man. Why should India? Because India is engaged in this war with Pakistan, and because the division line or line of divide is it goes on religion there, mainly because people are same, right? They just have different religion. Therefore, maybe Indian government or people in India, some people are struggling to be to go out of this box, right? Because I don't think in terms of, I mean, these people have this religion and that people have that religion. I think in terms what is right and what is wrong. And Israel is wrong right now. Israel was wrong before, and Iran did nothing wrong at this point, right? To be attacked, by the way. They did not do anything, literally anything. So why should not India support Iran? Because Iran is correct. Iran is on the right side of history. That's quite enough reason to me, by the way. And I don't care what kind of religion they have. I mean, it's none of my business, right? As nobody's business is, am I Orthodox Christian or I don't know, Starover or Anglican or Catholic or whatever. It's not nobody's business. It's, so I think we need to go outside the box, by the way. I mean, I simply don't care what people has what religion. If you are correct, you are correct, and I'm going to be on your side. That's all that matters to me personally, And India, by the way, will I don't think India will be in a better place if Middle East is engulfed in fire. It might hurt China big time, but it will hurt India also. And I think best way to go forward is to cooperate, right? I know there is significant issues between China and India, but these issues can be overcome. And if India has some, and that's why I think it is extremely important India and Russia to stay as strategical partners, I mean, forever, right? To make sure that, Beijing knows, right? To make sure that Beijing knows that it's better to be, pragmatic and positive and friendly. Cooperation is always better, and I think devastation in the Middle East will hurt everybody, including India, by the way. So I think India should be on Iran's side because Iran is on the right side of history. That's how I see it. Peter Wilder Best is asking, will Russia help Iran? I think Russia is already helping Iran in a number of ways. Openly, this help is in diplomatic field, also in military field, by the way. There are contracts in place, and Russia will deliver on those contracts. I saw some reports, by the way, that these Israeli fighter jets, including F-35s that was shot down, maybe was shot down by Russian Su-35 planes, right? That Iran received, some time ago. Maybe this is rumors, by the way, right? On the internet, we don't yet. I mean, fog of war is such that it is difficult to know what's going on. But Russia will definitely help Iran in whatever ways possible. I have no doubts about it, by the way. I have no doubts about that. And if US will get engaged in this war against Russia, if US will send ground troops, let's say US, UK, France, and so on, if they will send ground forces and get engaged big time against Iran directly, then most likely certain groups in Russia will do whatever it takes to revenge for all the crimes that these countries committed against Russia. And so help will be extremely significant. Certain groups in Russia will make sure that they will bleed out the US, British, and French militaries, NATO militaries there to revenge for their comrades. I mean, tens of thousands of Russian citizens died, by the way, and this is due to this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. And which countries are leading this proxy war? It's US, UK, and France and Germany, and then the rest, right? So, I mean, obviously, we all understand that there are going to be certain influential groups in Russia that may have or may not have any connections with their state institutions that will use any opportunity to revenge. And that's why I was saying, by the way, that quite a number of times before, that US is in a hurry. That was my impression, that US was in a hurry to achieve some agreements with Russia before this war starts in the Middle East, because they are afraid that Russia is going to revenge. And obviously, it would be better for US if they would reach some agreements with Russia, so that at least on a state level, Russia would not seek revenge, while independent groups will do it anyways. But I don't think there is any agreement in place. I don't think Trump and his team succeeded in this attempt to de-escalate with Russia. There was an attempt, but they failed. And therefore, I mean, revenge will happen. It's just inevitable. And whenever Russia will be in a position to revenge for blood of our people, we will do it. That's it. So Russia will help Iran. Russian people will help Iran. 100%, by the way. If you think anybody here gonna forget or forgive the tens of thousands of our citizens died due to criminal terrorist activity of US, UK, France, and Germany, and others, no, we're not gonna forgive, we're not gonna forget. Not possible. So that is my answer. It's almost 2 hours, by the way. This stream is on. Kevin Morris is commenting, thanks Levan. I hope Iran sees the bigger picture and does not do what the globalists want them to do. I hope so too. I hope so too. But I'm afraid even if Iran will, act with the restraint in regards to, let's say, Hormuz Strait, I'm afraid Western Israel and Western Secret Services probably already had a number of scenarios in place how to provoke war between Iran and their regional countries. And I'm afraid there is a high probability that they will succeed in that, in provoking the regional war between their neighbors there. And in that case, navigation in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait will be shut down inevitably. But Iran, in my personal opinion, take a look at the statements we are seeing from Iran. They are about de-escalation still, by the way, right? Iran's president, Iran's foreign minister, other officials that are policymakers. There are some people that want some major escalation and calling for this and that, but policymakers are acting with restraint and still are openly saying that they are ready for the escalation, they are for negotiations. Let's do it. But unfortunately, West will not listen. US will not listen. Leadership there, because they were never about peace and de-escalation to begin with. Ecom is commenting, how does this affect their EU price cap on Russian oil? I still don't understand how their price cap works. Well, it does not work, by the way. Ecom, it does not work. Even Japan at some point was buying Russian oil for $70 although G7 price cap is like $60, right? And the Russian president just a couple of days ago prolonged ban on selling Russian oil below on the level of that price cap that West is putting on Russian oil. And the now talks are that EU wants this price cap to come down from $60 to $45, right? $60 didn't work. So how $45 gonna work, man? This is pure madness, right? Pure madness. But at this point, no one should expect any adequacy from the Brussels bureaucrats or the bureaucrats of the majority of EU member states, right? $60 price cap didn't work. And those psychos want to impose now $45 price cap. It's crazy, right? Of course, it would not work. And when it comes to price itself, by the way, as longer this conflict continues, and eventually when navigation will be shut down in the Persian Gulf, oil price is gonna hit some $150 to $200, right? So it's total delusion on part of Western elites and the globalists and their puppets in Brussels if they think that they're gonna, impose $45 price cap on Russian oil, and Russia would not be able to sell oil, on the world prices, on the prices that are actually relevant on the world energy markets. They are just crazies, brother. And when it comes to topic of impact, for example, on economies, it's going to be huge, isn't it? Impact when navigation is shut down in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait, that will impact world economy big time, not just Chinese, but world economy. We will see probably significant disruption in the supply chains because cost of production will increase significantly just about everywhere, right? Including in China. and we will see high inflation, and in some cases, maybe even in some countries, maybe even hyperinflation. Number of countries are more or less secure, like Russia, for example, because Russia has a lot of energy, so it would not be affected by this chaos on the world energy market much, that significantly. But still, imported goods will be, will increase in price, right? So there will be some inflation, obviously, in Russia also, but other countries gonna suffer much more. Some of them might face even hyperinflation. And European economies, I have no idea what they're gonna do, because it seems to me that Brussels bureaucrats or the globalists or the globalist masters are doing literally everything to destroy European countries, to destroy European economies. I mean, their policies are extremely damaging for Europe, but who is stopping them? People in Europe is in deep sleep, unfortunately, majority. So no one is challenging these cycles, by the way. And when it comes to how this price cap works, basically G7 and the EU introduced $60 price cap, and no one should buy Russian oil above $60. And as I said, now they want to put $45. So once they will do it, no one should buy Russian oil above $45. But this is yet again nonsense. When oil prices were on the world market low, and it was low right now, but now it's increasing, obviously, due to developments in the Middle East. But a couple of weeks ago, oil prices were about like 60 something dollar, 70 up to $70, right? And obviously Russia was selling oil due to objective prices on the markets potentially below $60, but not because of some price cap, but because that was the price in general, right? But now when prices will increase inevitably, obviously Russia going to sell oil for on prices that is on the world market. And once Hormuz Strait is shut down, Persian Gulf, I think oil price is going to reach at least $150 for a barrel, at least. So Russia will sell oil for $150. Maybe Russia will do some little discount for some countries, but I don't think so, because China gonna have such a demand that China would buy all oil that Russia can offer under whatever price, right? So trust me, these idiots in Brussels have no idea what they are talking about or doing with these price caps and the rest of their nonsense that's coming from them. Banzo Beans is commenting, Levant, please do a video one day with your thoughts on the legacy of the Soviet Union in your experience, opinion. Maybe on Patreon, because on the news channel, on main channels, will it be interesting for the community? I don't know, but maybe I will recall something from my memory, and also I will go through some, I will do some additional research to refresh my memory, and I can make program about it on Patreon and Boosty, but I don't know about main channels, because I mean majority of people are coming here for news, basically relevant news. I mean latest one. So I don't know, but idea is good, and maybe for Patreon one day. Thank you, John. And Nidish Kumar is commenting, social justice, you mean When I was talking about Soviet Union, yes, I was meaning social justice, by the way. Soviet Union was pioneering many things in terms of social justice. That's for sure. And as I said, even though I myself is not big fan of communists and their Bolsheviks, for my reasons, I mean, obviously, I will always acknowledge huge successes that Soviet people achieved during the communist era. You know, and dear friends, it's already 2 hours. There was no super chat, isn't it? And no question from. And one more question. Let's do this. Katie Makes is commenting: how far will China go to assist Iran? All the way. All the way. They don't really have much choice, and they will assist China with whatever is necessary, with the exception of nukes, by the way. They're not going to give nukes to Iran, but they will assist Iran in terms of intelligence, satellite intelligence, in terms of equipment, military aid, or this and that. I mean, they will go all the way, and a number of other countries will do the same. But I think Russia too, especially if and when NATO countries will openly attack Iran. And if they send ground forces, well, you will see quite a number of Russian POWs fighting alongside Iranian troops, by the way, to avenge their comrades. I mean, collective West created so many enemies, by the way, worldwide, so many enemies. Yeah. But China, they will support Iran directly and also indirectly through countries that China has, good relationships, through Pakistan, for example, and through other countries. Because they understand perfectly well. I mean, it's the West is waging war against China. Globalists, right? Western ruling class is waging war against China. They want to destroy China, literally, to destroy China, destroy economy of China and the global South in general. They don't want no competitors whatsoever. So they see China as an enemy. They see India as an enemy. They see Russia as an enemy. They see Indonesia as an enemy. They see everybody who has any potential to oppose them as an enemy, and they will, as long as they are capable of doing something, they will always try to destroy these countries that they consider to be either now or potentially in the future competitors. And dear friends, we had good conversation, isn't it? Well, Levant, Pakistan is helping Israel. Yes, I mean, Pakistan has a good relationships with Israel. I mean, working relationships, let's say. And there also India has good working relationships, right, with Israel. And Pakistan is actually basically divided between the two countries now, two major powers, right? On one side is US, on the other side is China. And China definitely has significant influence. You would agree with me, isn't it? That China has big influence on Pakistan. And maybe due to this crisis in the Middle East, Pakistan will finally move towards China. Maybe Pakistan will just stop playing both sides and will finally move towards China. I think that is a possibility. But when it comes to cooperation with Israel, by the way, I mean, it's not just Pakistan. Turkey is cooperating with Israel. I mean, on an official level, Erdogan is making some, strong statements and so on. But, you think NATO military installations, NATO radar systems and so on in Turkey are not providing information to Israeli side? Come on. Of course they do. I would not be surprised at all, by the way, if we find out sometime in the future that Israeli Air Force was actually using airfields in Jordan, for example, or Saudi Arabia, or I don't know, in UAE, Kuwait, maybe even in Iraq, by the way, they are using some US military bases that are controlled by US. I mean, in Kurdistan, for example, that Baghdad don't really has any control of. Okay, dear friends, thank you very much for this good conversation. We had good exchange of opinions, isn't it, in real time. Stream is more than 2 hours now, so I have to end it. Thank you all for your attention, for your support, and if you can, dear friends, once stream will end, click that like button and leave some commentaries, so that way our conversation will reach wider audience. Have a peaceful day, wonderful peaceful day, and take care.